Hi, everybody. Welcome to starself.com. Tonight, it's Astrology Unplugged. And if you're typing text messages, I won't be able to see them. So I'll discourage you right now. Okay. Now, welcome from YouTube if you're watching. I'm going to talk about a chapter that I wrote for this book. We wrote for this book. And we pulled it out at the last minute. It was all finished. It was all finished and I felt it was a little redundant, so I pulled it out. I got the entire chapter available to you right now, and it's called What the Signs Do and What They Don't Do. What they naturally do and what they don't do. Tonight I'll show you the link to get the chapter if you want to print it for yourself. There's enough negativity going around everywhere with so much stuff. I thought I'd talk tonight about the very positive side of all the signs. Okay? And if you read this book, the book we wrote in 2011 called The Exquisite Zodiac, it's explained very clearly in this book over and over. This is available at my website, starself.com, also available on Amazon, of course. Now, if you would like to download the entire chapter, just like it was in the book, and I pulled it out, then I have it right here. Let's see here. Yes. Go to if you want to download it to your computer, go to my website, starself.com. It has to be all lowercase. starself.com/class/one word extra chapter .docx. That means it's a word file, and it's a modern word file, which is why you have the X. starself.com/class/extra chapter .docx. If you'd like to download the entire chapter, what I'm going to talk about is really encapsulated in that chapter. I'm not sure why now we pulled it out at the last minute. I think we felt a little bit like it was repetitive. Anyhow. Okay, so what I want to talk to you about is overlooked so much of the time, and that's this thing called sun signs. Now, they've changed. I noticed they've changed the chat messages, and they're really taking up a lot of the screen, and I'm going to discourage you from chatting at the moment. Now, sun signs are about this much part of you, about this much. Some people are this much, some people are that much. And when we talk about sun signs, everything becomes a big deal about I'm an Aries, I'm a Taurus, I'm a Gemini. And that's what keeps astrology alive, thankfully, and unfortunately, both. Now, your sun sign is an important part of you. And when I read for people, I discourage them. I try to get them unplugged from their identification with their sun sign. Then I read the whole chart. And then at the very end, I try to encourage the sun sign. Because your real heart of hearts is your sun sign. But you have to get detached from it first before you can put it in perspective. Then you get it in perspective and reattach it. So I'm going to talk about Aries, and I was going to do it backwards because some people get annoyed when I do Aries through Pisces, and some people prefer Pisces through Aries, but we're going to do Aries through Pisces and do it on purpose. Now, it's all followed up in this book, okay? Now, I'm going to apply about 5 or 6 minutes per sun sign. That gives about an hour. So when I talk to you about an Aries, I am not talking about the one Aries that's in your family. I'm not talking about the 2 Aries you knew in college. You got to know 5 or 6 or 7 Aries before you can see what is Aries in common. You know, I'll think of Taurus, and I might know 20 Tauruses, and I can see what is in common, and I can see the differences also. But I'm trained to do it. It's been a long time. So when I talk about a certain sun sign, whether it's Scorpio or whether it's Leo, I'm talking about the essence of the sign, I'm not talking about the ones you know, because the ones you know probably have a moon in a certain sign, or a T-square here, or a rising sign that conflicts with it. So remember, that's what we're talking about, okay? Now, write your questions down as we go through, and then at the end, if we have time for questions, we'll do that. Okay. Now, I thought tonight might be a light audience because everybody wants to talk about all the heavy stuff. And I gave you the message last week. The message is Neptune is squaring this president's moon, and there's your large scale weapons of mass deception. Big time, big time. We're in a huge time of being deceived. Secondly, the Pluto return is forming in the country. So things are really being tested, and it's up to us how we deal with it. So let's start with Aries. I'm not going to go into all the things about the sun signs because it's explained in the book about what a fire sign is, what a cardinal sign is, what a fixed sign is. That's all explained in the early chapters. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, okay? And Aries is fiery. And what Aries wants to do, and I hope I get this done, and maybe if I forget one, you guys can remind me. I want to talk about what each sign's major need is to do, what they're always doing, what is their primary focus. Okay, so if I skip one and miss it, please interrupt me and let me know. Aries people are enamored with themselves because this is the first sign of the zodiac. This is where God says, let me separate from myself. Let me seemingly separate from myself, and let me test myself, because I can't know myself unless I'm separate from myself. So this is, you can consider this the fall of the angels from heaven. The illusion of separateness gets started in the sign of Aries. And unfortunately, what the next 10 signs do is they try to up it. They try to make it better, stronger, more separate. It's only the 12th sign where we wise up in Pisces and we figure out that it's all an illusion. We should have never done it to begin with and return back to the oneness. So I want you to really focus on this because I know you all have Aries brothers and sisters and friends, and you have different signs, and you're going to see where some things fit, some things don't. With Aries people, they love to test themselves. And I put this very simply many times on this show. When my son was very little, maybe 4 or 5, I can't remember, I gave him a block of wood, and I gave him a nail, and I gave him a hammer. And he pounded that nail a bunch of times till he got the stick in the wood. And he was so proud of himself. He showed Dad, and he said, look what I did. Now, I'm telling you, that might seem silly to you, but that's what Aries are doing. That's what they do. They're enamored with themselves because they come. You have to always remember with a sun sign that they are a reaction from what came before. What came before Aries was nothingness. So the Aries are amazed that they exist. And you just don't get in their way. And what Aries people can't stand, they can't stand you complicating things. I'm going from here to there. That's it. When I wrote the chapter, it took me a long time to get into the right mentality for each sign. But when I wrote the chapter, I had to realize, that's it. I'm going from here to there. Get out of my way. Now, I'm not going to be, no, my camera has gone out of focus. That's weird. That doesn't mean they're mean about it. Some of them can be. That usually they're real pleasant. They're fun. They're lighthearted. They're very much like the guy or the gal next door. I'm going from here to there. I want to go do that. They have a very strong tendency to oversimplify everything. I'm going from here to there. Get out of the way. If you're in the way, they're going to tell you, get out of my way. They don't mean rudely. They mean, you're in my way. Get out of the way. That's it. And they want to get there because they want to experience themselves and what they can do. It's really very simple. They're usually very pleasant people, and you will find in our discussion that the early signs of the zodiac are much simpler than the end signs like Aquarius and Pisces are very complex, and for many reasons. So the Aries wants to go test itself, wants to be adventurous. I got a friend of mine who's an Aries, and I've talked to him recently. He retired. He wants to spend his retirement years fishing in the Gulf. And I couldn't understand that because I'm much more Piscean and Capricorn, Aquarian. I'm more cause oriented, and I don't know what you fishing in the Gulf is going to do, but what it's going to do for him is he's going to get to experience himself. And that's what he needs to do. And you just don't complicate it. You don't complicate it. It's very simple. Mark, our friend here, is an Aries. Mark has more complex things in his chart, but I suggest if you get to really know, you're an Aries, right? Yeah. When you get to know the Aries, you'll find that part that's very pleasant, it's very simple, and even with their complexity, there's this simple thread. Now you also start to see how the next sign becomes a little more complex. This is all explained beautifully in the book, I think. That's what this book is. It talks about how you go from one sign to the next, how they're all connected. Taurus comes along. Taurus is very much a simple, pleasant sign, very much the archetype I keep giving you of the hobbit in his hobbit hole, and he's got his feet up on fire, he's got his tobacco there in the pipe, and he's having a little muffin, and he's got his furry feet by the fire, and he's just enjoying things now. Out the window, there's the breeze, there's the garden, and they're just satisfied. That's it. That's what Taurus is. Now, you'll find Tauruses that can be very complex because of the rest of the chart, but Taurus will come in, get you a drink, get you a sandwich, sit you on the couch, and then they'll leave you be. But they're going to take care of you. They're going to make sure you're comfortable, and then they're going to split. They don't want things getting complicated. They don't like getting involved in crowds, involved in too much stuff. They like their pleasantries. Now, on the negative side, which all signs have, you see Archie Bunker. Archie Bunker is a perfect example of the negative side of Taurus. Okay, where it's all about him and that's it. Taurus is usually live in a small world, usually, very small world. They're not going to call you on the phone because they're very content in their small world. Doesn't mean they're any anti-anything. They just like their comforts. They don't want you changing the cushions. They don't want you changing the channel, changing the dog, changing the menu, nothing. They like everything the same. And this is what these people need to do. So you could take that Aries who's out there becoming enamored with themselves, and all of a sudden the soul, at the soul level, needs to get anchored in the earth. And that's what Taurus is about. Getting anchored in the earth, getting anchored to something instead of being fiery and firing around like a comet all the time, which is what Aries is. Taurus has that need to get affixed to the earth. Okay? Hello, Diane. Okay, so the Taurus people, don't hassle them. You're not going to get them to get up and jump and move somewhere. They're going to move at their own speed. They like things happening slowly because they believe in things that last forever. I told you the story of my friend, a Taurus from high school. He's on Facebook. He's a Taurus. One day he wrote, Ode to Lefty. He wrote a poem on Facebook called Ode to Lefty. And I said, what is he talking about? And he was saying goodbye to his boots that had worn out after 30 years. And he hated it. He had to say goodbye to him. So he wrote an ode to Lefty. By God, you wore them all you could, and they got to get a new boots. And he got real nice ones, but he gave him a nice send-off. And you have to understand that this is serious to these people. They don't want people jumping around and changing and moving targets and stuff. And they don't understand it. They want what they want, and they're comfortable with what they want. Some of the most comfortable people you will ever be near are Aries and Taurus. Aries is real comfortable in their own skin. Taurus is very comfortable for the little surroundings that they've built. And almost all Tauruses love to get their hands in the dirt. They love the garden. They like to get their hands in the soil. They just love it. Not all of them, but pure Taurus, yes. Soul keeps changing in a manner of speaking. So we come up with a Gemini, and a Gemini is an air sign, means they start to think, they start to talk, and that's what they want to do. And what they want is to find out what's on the other side of the fence. I told you Taurus wants to get anchored. Gemini wants to know what's on the other side of the fence, because no matter where you are, there's a fence, and it's going to be better on the other side. That's the problem with Gemini. They live in the future. They get there, then they want back here. Then they get there, and they want back here. My mother was a Gemini. She would just drive the family crazy to get to a party. Let's go, let's go, let's go. As soon as we get there, I want to go home. Living in the future. This is the built-in inherent problem with Gemini. But what's their ability is to explore and find things. Explore, look what I found. Erica, look what I found. I go tell Erica about this. Erica would like to hear about this. Let me tell Marcia about what I just found. And they tell everybody. Don't ever tell a secret to a Gemini. Ever. Worst secret keepers in the zodiac, in my opinion, are the Geminis and the Libras. Don't tell them. Don't tell them. They're going to tell somebody. Because they're air signs and they love to exchange ideas. Geminis are very childlike, and this is where you get this president that we have now, and the vice president is a double Gemini. He's very childlike. You put this humongous, biggest problem we've had in our history since the Civil War in his lap. He has no idea what to do with this. Let's drink some Clorox. Try this. Tell him this. Tell him yes. Tell him no. Tell him yes. Tell him no. Don't know. Then tell him yes. It's just he can't scope out the problem. It's not a Gemini thing. Yes, Ford was a Gemini. JFK was a Gemini, but he had a moon in Scorpio. But Geminis want to explore. And now, there's lateral learning and there's deep learning. Gemini is all about going across the surface. And they do not want to go deep. If you take them deep, they start to drown and they can't stand it and they complain. They don't want to go deep. I can't go deep when there's more to find. There's more to find. There's more to find. I know Marcia has a sister who's a Gemini. I don't know her well enough to ascertain. But see, I don't forget sun signs usually. But by going around, what the Gemini ends up doing, Gemini's fascinated with how much there is to learn out there. And I want to tell somebody about it. That's it. And I've even had them in my readings. I've had them on this show. They don't care what you think about going deeper or what the implications are. They don't care. That's Aquarius. This is neat. That's neat. Ooh, this neat. Look at this fly flying around with one wing. Ooh, that's neat. Look at this fire truck. Ooh, he's got a horn. All these things are neat. And it's not Gemini's ability to weigh one thing versus another. They're all interesting phenomena. That's why when you're with them, they change subjects all the time. When you get to the heart of a matter, they'll change subjects. They're evasive. You know anybody in the White House like that? But the mind is developing. That's what's happening in the zodiac. So what Geminis want to do is go to the flea market. They want to go to the new store that just opened. They want to try out this new toy that was just invented. They're attracted to the novel. Okay? Now, I will say this. Liza disagrees with me, but I'm sticking to my guns. The Gemini men and women are more different than any other pair in the zodiac. And I'll stick to my guns. The Gemini women are much sharper with their tongue than the Gemini men are, compared to all the other signs. There's a real big difference between the feminine and the male. Almost all my friends are Gemini men. Tons of them. Anyhow, that's what they want to do. They're very lighthearted. I've done plenty of surveys in my life and through the newsletter, etc. The most popular signs is I'm going to make enemies here. So what? The most popular signs in the zodiac are the Geminis and the Libras. That's according to my polls. That's because they're very friendly, they're talkative, they're social. And their least favorite are the Cancers and the Capricorns. And that's because Cancers and Capricorns are usually quieter, they're usually keeping things to themselves. You got to take a little more time to get to know them, for what it's worth. Okay, so we move on into the sign of Cancer. Cancer is a really big deal. It's a really, really big, important, powerful sign, and it's really a tough sign to be. And I think the toughest signs of all to be is a Cancer or a Pisces. I think you really are. Matter of fact, all three water signs are no picnic. And the main reason Cancer is hard to be is because it's the first water sign. First time in general, the first time that the soul feels something. Aries is busy flying around, and Taurus is busy getting anchored to the soil, and Gemini is busy with 7,000 different things. Cancer is busy, I'm feeling some things, and therefore, like Cat Stevens says, somebody can hurt me. Ooh, baby, it's a wild world. There's a lot of bad, and beware. That's what happens in the sign of Cancer. The soul starts to open up, and now the soul realizes that it's vulnerable. And this is the number one thing Cancers can't stand. And remember, we're a Cancer country. Cancers can't stand being vulnerable. They want to be safe. They're obsessed with being emotionally safe. Emotionally safe. And that's their job. And that's what they need. That's what they need to do. They surround themselves with family. They surround themselves with people that are comfortable, and they get rid of people and they block out people that they don't feel that way about. If people represent a danger to them, up goes the wall. That's why the Cancer crab has the hard shell. Cancer is all about feeling safe with the family, and the number one thing, without a doubt, that Cancers are obsessed with is not being abandoned. Now, I'm talking at such a level that, I mention this to all Cancers, and they all say yes. It's just a Cancerian thing to worry about being abandoned. Why? As Liza put it, the soul just got thrown in the water. We were doing this chapter years ago, and she said, wow, think about it. You just got thrown in the water. You're going to sink. What that does to an initial soul. What do? You grab on. You hold on because you don't want to sink. Sinking is being abandoned. So Cancer is really excellent at being emotionally supportive. Come to my house. I fix you some chicken soup. Come to my house. We'll put on some nice music. We'll close the doors so we're all safe. Come on in and we're nice and warm and fuzzy. A beautiful sign. Going to see grandma is a Cancerian activity. Going to see grandma. Why do you go see grandma? Because the warm and the fuzzies. Where do you go Christmas? You go see grandma. Right? Traditions, family. All those things are Cancerian. Every sign has a problem or a negative side, and it's always the opposite of the positive. So if you are walling off people and you're living in the bubble, you got your inherent problem right there because you can't breathe. That's what's wrong with the U.S. The U.S. is getting walled off. We have a real Cancer war going on now, Cancer, Capricorn. The Cancer part of us wants to shut off the borders, build walls, push people away. The Capricorn part of us wants to open up and get along with the other countries. So that kind of tug of war is going on. Cancer is a beautiful sign, and it's a very difficult sign to be, because if you get to know them, they're usually very tender. They're very sensitive. And I get many, many Cancers in my used to be office. And I tell them, people are always telling you to calm down. Don't be so sensitive. They go, yeah, yeah, yeah. I say, you tell them, nah. I'll be sensitive because I'm sensitive. Deal with it. That's what you tell them. Cancers are sensitive and they're moody because they're moody. That's it. They're moody because they feel this, then they feel that. Then they feel this, then they feel that. Look in most Cancers' eyes. Most Cancers you ever see, you'll see this glassy-eyed type of kaleidoscope, beautiful eyes that they have, which is indicative of them being very emotional and swimming in a sea of possible emotions. As you see, every sign brings something to the table. Now, we go into Leo. And Leo is fixed fire, is symbolic of the teenager that knows everything. And everybody could say things like, Leo needs an audience. You wouldn't be far from wrong, just like a teenager does, because right under the surface, right that much under the surface of a Leo is a Cancer. They're very sensitive, but they don't want anybody to know it. Because by God, they got the car keys. They're going out with the boys. They're going to drive a car this weekend. They're tough. Teenager. Leo is the sign of getting confirmation, getting their identity confirmed. But that's why they want the limelight. It's not because they want to be center stage, which many of them do. It's because they need to express themselves and look and see if it's okay. Leos are very crafty. They'll express themselves and they're scanning the room for approval and they're looking like everything but. They're looking like they're not looking, they could care less about approval. Oh yeah? They're scanning the room for possible approval. What is a Ram Dass said? There's three types of people. Let's see if I get this right. There's the ones that are interested in you, the ones that possibly, say I see a woman who's attractive. I'm attracted to this woman. There's all the people in the room that could stop me from being connected to the woman, and everybody else doesn't matter. That's what Ram Dass said. 1, you're attracted to. 2, what are my possible opponents here? 3, they don't matter. It's a very Leonine type of thing. Leos are obsessed with getting okayed, getting approval. And what their job is in this world is to finally learn to approve of themselves, to get it from the inside, not the outside. And then Leos can be just fabulous. They can be very generous, very warm, very magnanimous, artistic. Almost all Leos want to be creative. They do things big demonstrative gestures. So what does the Leo need? The Leo needs an audience, yes. But what the Leo's got to do is they got to eventually get free of the audience. They need to be on stage. They need to perform. And what they really need is to feel that sun come through them. They're ruled by the sun. Shiny, big, bright. That's why Leos, and they dress in colorful clothes. They almost always have big, beautiful eyes. And the epitome of their eyes is how Natalie Wood looked. There's the epitome of Leo eyes. Great big whites around the pupil. Clear white all the way around. Usually with Leos. Leos have very thick hair, full hair, round face. Leo rising, round face, very circular. So they're fixed fire. You don't tell them to calm down. They don't know how to calm down. They're fixed fire. They're like taking a beach ball and putting it under the pool and it pops back up. That's what Leos are like. And that's what their spirit is like. So you got to respect what the person's spirit is, whether it's the Aries that needs to fly, the Taurus that needs to dig, the Gemini that needs to scatter like a water bug, the Cancer that wants to come into home and settle down and be nestled with the family, or the Leo wants to express itself. Now, after these 5, we come into the dramatic 6th sign. And in the book, we had to make a decision. And we made a very careful decision early on. We called the first 6 signs of the zodiac self-oriented. They learn by being involved within themselves. And the next 6 signs, Libra through Pisces, are other-oriented. They learn by bouncing things off of other people, by being involved with others. So Virgo is in an untenable position because it comes right after Leo. It's the final sign of the first 6. And what Virgo does, now think of the Virgos, you know, the buck stops there. And Virgos can't stand people whining. They can't stand the Aries whining about not enough attention, and the Taurus doesn't have enough money, and the Gemini's bored. Oh, we're so bored. And the Cancer's getting their feelings hurt, and the Leo's not getting center stage. And the Virgos don't want to hear any of it. They're tough, and they don't want that stuff, and it's time to grow up because we're going to go meet other people. We're going to go into the second half of the zodiac. So Virgos are obsessed with how my work is being judged. I will let my work speak for itself. I don't want flattery. I don't want a bonus. I don't want the limelight because they're anti-Leo. They're the sign of the young adult. My work speaks for itself. And if there's a problem, I'll go back to work and work harder. I can't tell you how many unhappy women I read for that are married to Virgo men. And it's not because the Virgo men are mean. They're very, very nice people. They're very honest as the day is long, but a lot of them, a lot of Virgo men, the higher percentage, don't deal with emotion well. They just don't deal with it because emotions are sloppy. It's hard to handle, and they deal with going back to the workshop, rubbing a little harder, sanding a little finer, getting things exact. And don't criticize a Virgo because they got so much going on inside their own head, they don't need to hear it from you. They're very, very critical. And they're very critical of other people, and they don't tell you. Virgos can't stand for you to see how critical they are, but they're really critical. It's just the way their mind works because in their world, they're built to fix things. That's the number one thing Virgos do. If something's wrong, I fix it. And I tell you clearly in the book, if you got to hire one, hire them. You got to hire anybody, hire them. Half the nurses in the country saving us from coronavirus, they're all Virgos. Perfectionist, not one little thing's going to get on you. It's going to hurt you. They're just excellent at their work. But they do it. The females are better, and the females are getting a lot better because of what Neptune's been doing to them the last 15 years. But when we wrote the Virgo chapter, I remember we picked it up and we threw it out. The whole book was done. And I said, nah. And I took the Virgo chapter and we threw it away. And the reason why, you learn when you go on past the sign, you come back to it. The reason why I was very tired of hearing about Virgo being the perfectionist. Well, it is true somewhat, but what we came up with, which I was very happy with, was Virgos care and they're purists. They're purists and they care. And Virgos can't understand they're working along somebody at work and your person doesn't care. Their person keeps waiting for 5 o'clock. Virgos can't understand it. Because you hired me to do a day's job, I'm going to do a day's work. It's that simple. And Virgo men and women too, they really become workaholics, and I have to do a lot of work with Virgos to help them. Most of my clients are female Virgos. And I think the reason why is they want to be number one in line with Goddess. And a lot of them know inherently that Goddess comes through the zodiac. She comes through astrology. They want to be in tune with what they should be doing. And the number one challenge you have with a Virgo is that word, should. That's the problem with Virgos. You got to get them unshoudified. Unshoudified. Look it up in your dictionary. Marcia, look that up. Unshoudified. Shouldless. Where's this come from? Where's this feeling of I should do this? I should do this right from wrong. This is so Virgoan, but it's really impossible to be yourself when you got these shoulds on you all the time. So that's the real challenge with Virgos. To be yourself, but to be pleasing this goddess who wants things pure. One of the other problems I've noticed with Virgo and Capricorn, if your nature is to fix everything, then by default, what are you saying to God? Everything you send me has a problem with it? What are you doing, sending me seconds? Because all they do is notice what's wrong, then they fix it. So that's the real challenge of Virgo. To fix things like Mother Teresa, to fix things, but know automatically that they're already perfect when they came to you. That's what Mother Teresa did, the great balancing act. What did she say? She says, what I do all day, Virgo female, what I do all day is I see the different faces of Jesus. That's what she said in her book. So you're here to fix, but you already know it's okay. Just like Capricorn's here to make sure, but you already know that it's already fine. You don't need to make sure because God's already making sure. So some of these signs get very tricky. Now we make the big move and we jump up into Libra, and that's a big deal because now we've crossed into the second half of the zodiac. Now what's happened to the first half of the zodiac? The self has been perfected. The product is ready to come off the assembly line and go out and meet people. As a matter of fact, let me say one final thing I've learned about Virgo. The most common problem in the zodiac physically is Virgo people with intestinal problems. No doubt about it. Virgo's problem with colitis, Crohn's disease, problems, the bowel area, whatever it is. And I started to think about that a long time, and I realized what's happening is they're not letting things flow by. The body is stupid. The body does what the mind says. And the mind says, start it, stop it, conveyor belt. Start it, stop it, something's wrong. Lucy Arnaz, start it, stop it, eat the chocolate, start it, stop it, fix it, start it, stop it, start it. And what do you think the intestines do? Herky-jerky. And you'll even see Virgos in this herky-jerky motion. You'll very seldom see them with fluid movements. Usually they're herky-jerky because to let it go is anti-Virgoan. To let it go and let it flow means you might be letting problems get by. So that's why I believe the intestines become problematic. So we move into Libra, and Libra's meeting people. They're Venusian. They're very pretty people. They have the nicest smile in the zodiac. Very pleasant, very tactful. And what do they want to do? They want to be included and accepted socially. That's what they want. They are almost always, 98% of the time, married to somebody very attractive. 98. Look at the men, they got these beautiful women and vice versa. Very pleasant people, very charming, very tactful, smart, maybe the smartest sign there is. Street smart. Street smart. One of the reasons they're street smart, they're an air sign, is because they don't think about what's beyond it. They don't think about the ionosphere. They don't think about the spiritual realms. That is not a Libra issue unless they have a powerful Neptune of some sort. Libra is very simple. They want to be accepted socially. And boy, when you have a parent come to you and they got a problem with a Libra child, it can be really tough because all that Libra childs think about is what their friends are saying. They don't listen to mom and dad anymore at all. That can be really troublesome. Then you just have to kind of get them through it. But to them, being socially accepted is everything. Now, they're very aware socially. When you get them involved in issues, they come up with good social solutions. Very bright sign, very smart. Now, there's a big misunderstanding in the Libra sign because Libra is known as the sign of relationships. And this book divides the zodiac into 4 quadrants. And what happens in that 3rd quadrant, which is Libra, Scorpio, Sag, is that's a quadrant of relationships. Well, Libra starts relationships. It starts to relate to people, and they need a partner. And they need a sounding board, but they really are not ready for partnerhood in terms of real marriage. That comes next in Scorpio. Because by default, air signs are not deep. They don't go deeply into emotions like Scorpio does or like Pisces does. Air signs like Gemini and like Libra, they like it on the surface. That's why Libras are really wonderful for social gatherings, debates, etc. Very pleasant people. So by the time you get to Scorpio, the Scorpio is the sign that is the daily soap opera. The deep, oh, they don't love me anymore. Oh, I quit the business. And oh, what's going to happen? And oh, and all the really heavy stuff. Will he love me forever and ever? Oh, my God. Neil Young. Joni Mitchell. That's a Scorpio. Now we're deep in the water, and the Scorpio's crawling down on the bottom of the water, and everything's about deep emotions. Who were we examining recently? We were examining John Prine, who just died. And John Prine was a Libra with all 4 planets in Scorpio. And he's a wonderful musician, wonderful writer, but all his songs were about messed up relationships. All of them. And I said in this book that if you have a lot of planets in Libra and in Scorpio, the 2 obsessive signs about relationships, these people, you got to really work with them because their whole life depends on how well that relationship's doing. And you just can't let that relationship get that important. You just can't do it. Why? Because you're putting your life in someone else's hands. That's why. People that don't have a lot of Libra, Scorpio, other signs in their chart, they're more indifferent to a relationship. So in the Scorpio sign, the Scorpio is all about merging with another, merging into oneness, hopefully. But that passion that's so intense to merge with another is very tricky. And that's why Scorpio can easily become the negative side, which is the compulsive, I gotta have it. They'll walk by a window and they'll say, oh, I need that hat. You don't need that hat. You might like that hat. Oh, I need it. Oh, I'd kill for those shoes. That's a Scorpio statement. Well, if you're going to kill for those shoes, let me get away a little bit. But that's what they're saying. And it's very Scorpionic to love some or hate it. Love it or hate it. Black and white. Scorpios have very dramatic lives. There are high highs, low lows. High, low lows. Anybody know Scorpios around them? You ever see that about them? There's the high highs and low lows. I'm going to kill somebody. Oh, I love them. So they're all about this intense need to fuse with the other. It's really that simple. The Libra wants socially accepted, with Scorpio gets more intense. Now you get to your third relationship sign of Sagittarius, and you have transcended individual relationships. Now it's relationships with other countries, exchange students, people at college, people in school. It's a much bigger dimension, people across the internet. Sagittarius is about broadening, getting bigger, bigger. This week I had a question from a woman. She wanted to know if she should take another job. And usually when people want to take another job, it's usually almost always yes is the answer to take it. Because number one, we tend to hang on. And number two, when we finally do let go, it's like really needed. But I make an exception with people. When Neptune's on them, don't do it because you're probably deceiving yourself. Somebody's deceiving you. This person had Neptune all over him. So I started to tell this person, I started to feel like, no, I don't think it's time to move forward. I just don't think so. I usually don't like to get into decision making anyway. It's up to the client. But then I came back to the final fact that she had been in her job 26 years. 28 years is the natural end of a cycle. And she's a Sag. She needs to go and explore. Go, try this. Go here, where, there. I want to travel. Where do you want to go? I don't care. I just want to travel. So I said, in my opinion, take the job. In my opinion. I said, you're going to need to watch out. Somebody might be not on the up and up. You might be getting deceived a little bit, hearing what you want to hear. Be careful, but you need to go. Because if not, her moon in Virgo was going to win. She was going to stay because it was safe. She was going to stay because here comes the paycheck. And that's the worst thing you can do in astrology. Go. Pick up the spirit of it. Go. And then usually things work out. So I felt good about it. So that's what Sagittarius want to do. They want to explore. It's much like opposite Gemini. Gemini wants to explore horizontally. Sag wants to explore the whole world. They just want to explore and broaden. And that's why people with a lot of Sag, you never get a book out of their hands. Never. They just read. And my friend just got out of prison, 10 years. He said, all I did was read. I said, what did you read? He said, I didn't care. Anything I found. Wants to read. That's the urge of Jupiter. That's the urge of Sag. To get out and expand and learn. Everything's fun. That's what their nameplate is. If it ain't fun, I'm not doing it. That's a real big part of Sag. That's a real big statement if you think about it. If it ain't fun, I'm not doing it. Well, there are a lot of problems entailed in that statement. We came out of 15 years of Pluto and Sag, 1995 through 2008, 13 years. And look what that got us. All the bills came due in 2008. So the flippancy of Sag can really be a problem. And the bills came due in 2008, and there went the economy, and we've been fighting it ever since. So the last three signs are beyond the relationships. They're the outer world and beyond: Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. Very complex signs, big signs. They think on a larger scale where everybody's involved. The Capricorn opposite, the Cancer, is careful like the Cancer, but it's more careful on a bigger scale. The Capricorn's very careful, dutiful, very regular, to be counted upon. Their job security is really important. And what Capricorns really want what they want might surprise you. They want to belong. Notice opposite Cancer. Cancer wants to belong to the family. Capricorn wants to belong to society. The worst thing you can do to a Capricorn is throw them out of the club. Devastation. Devastation. Capricorn is very, very careful, and they work really hard. And what they want to do is have the ability to excel in their job and advance in their job, and give them a position where they belong, and they become an institution. They hold up the walls of institutions. Very, very important. On the flip side, they can become rigid. They can become unemotional because they're working so hard at things and trying. One of the big weaknesses of Capricorn is they don't trust. They don't flow. And that happens a lot with the earth signs. Earth signs are not fluid. They're earth. They're not fluid. In case you haven't noticed, in astrology, air goes with fire. Earth goes with water. Earth and water are the even-numbered signs. Those are generally your best match because the earth gets too dry without the water, and without the earth, the water can't be contained or formed. Air and fire, well, that's obvious. They need each other. The air and fire need each other. So in general, that's a general rule of compatibility. So Capricorn comes along, they're a very advanced sign, usually very aware socially, but you got to watch them because they might say what you want to hear and not really come from the heart. So it's a tough sign to be, Capricorn. It's tough, but great advances are made in the sign of Capricorn because it's the 10th sign out of 12. And I told you after 11, we got to start putting the brakes on and realize we've been doing the wrong thing all along, which is to keep bolstering the ego, which is not the way to go. So we go into Aquarius, okay? 11th sign, air sign, extremely bright. In my opinion, is probably, when you add up everything, is probably the finest sign of all 12, in my opinion. When you add up all the details, because they don't need people, they're very self-sufficient, they're very smart, extremely friendly, very tolerant, they're tough, they stick to something, they learn something, they master it. They're vertical learning, not like Gemini. They go deep, 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 deep. They master something. They master things. That's very Aquarian, to just become a genius and just master it. And now what happens with Aquarius is they become the master of, if you got this and if you got that, then you realize what that means. And Marshall, you and your brother both have a moon in Aquarius. So that would explain to you a little bit about what's going on there. So Gemini's gathering the data. The other air sign, Libra, they're finding out what's socially acceptable. Aquarius is examining thought itself into a big, huge puzzle. And what Aquarius is always doing is putting the big puzzle together. That's what they're doing. And that's what they want to do. Very difficult sign to convince of anything. They're very hard-headed, especially the men. Very hard-headed sign. They are very self-assured, and they learn from their own examination of things. Very smart sign. So when you get through with 11 signs, what's left is Pisces. And the reason the final gap between Aquarius and Pisces is such a big deal is because now the self has to let go of what it's done all this work to do. All along, the self is becoming expressed in Aries, getting more substantive in Taurus, getting more explorative in Gemini, getting more emotions in Cancer, getting stronger as a self in Leo, getting more responsible and integrated in Virgo, socializing in Libra, really merging with other people in Scorpio, merging with other people in Sag across the planet, developing yourself socially as an institution in Capricorn. In Aquarius, the reason the water bear is carrying the water jug, that's what they're called, the water bear. The reason they have the water spilling out is they're giving back. They're going to give back, which is the beautiful part of Aquarius. Aquarius is all about all of us working together. That's what Aquarius wants, a group of people working together. And that's the number one thing that we're trying to do with you people with the virus. We're trying to work together. We're not trying to put a mask on you. Quit spreading it. We got to work together. Oh no, whatever that's about. So when you go into Pisces, the Pisces is all about doing away with all those things that were just achieved. Letting go. Pisces don't want to play ball. They don't want to be competitive. They want to let go. All they want to do is have somebody to love. All they want to do is give love. How about that? They just want to give love. That's amazing how, that's one reason it's called exquisite. Because by the time you get to the final sign, that's what they want to do. Mutable, giving, water, love. The beautiful part of Pisces. And that's why it's so tough to be one. Them and Cancers, that's why it's so tough. Because they're very, very sensitive. And they don't want to compete. And they don't want to fight. They don't want to argue. They want to run away and hide. So that's why a lot of this book is spent trying to clarify to Pisces what they are. Because the whole book is a crescendo to the sign of Pisces. This book was initially called Pisces, the Ultimate Sign. But I changed that because I didn't think people would understand it in the proper light. What is meant by that is you surrender, but what happens with Pisces, what's the problem with Pisces, by the way? What they need is very simple. This is what may issue. What does Pisces need? They need one thing, and that's to be left alone. They want to be left alone. Why? Because they just don't want any hassles about anything. If you're concerned about this, I don't want to talk about it. I don't care about your concern. Everything is fine as it is. Pisces. Everything is fine as it is. When we know that that's true, but that's also dreamland. So that's what you got to really make the distinction with Pisces, that everything is fine, but you got to make the distinction between the beach bum who says to you, hey, dude, everything's just fine, and the person who really, sincerely has grown to that point where they tell you everything, it's all good. There's a real big difference. So what you end up having to teach Pisces is to have more ego. Because they become so anti-ego, they have nothing left to move upon, to move with. They end up spaced out, drugs, alcohol, escape. You would be shocked at how many criminals are Pisces. You'd be shocked. They just get lost. So what you try to do with Pisces, and there's a lesson to the entire zodiac, and that's why you need to read the whole book, not just one sign. Well, the lesson is to be selfless, like George Harrison talked about. Here comes my Aquarian cat. Come on, Stuart. He's letting me know the food time's coming soon. Okay. To have an ego, but not be based on it. To have an ego, but to have it in proportion. That's exactly what the zodiac is about. When you're in Aries, there's a real temptation to think that it's all about you. And that's why when you're in a room with Aries, Aries will listen to any story, and at the very end of the story, they'll make it all seem like it came from them. Leo, same thing. All of us, we're all filled with ego stories, all 11 of us, until you get to the Pisces stage, and the Pisces stage doesn't understand at all, and that's why we got that one right, Liza. That's why we got the title to the Pisces chapter exactly right. And that chapter was called, Isn't He Silly? And that's how Pisces see things. They're not judgmental, and they see what you're doing, and that's just silly. Hey, you're being silly. Not you're being an idiot. That's Virgo. Not you're being a weak nothing. That's Scorpio. But you're being silly, which means you're being human. You're getting tricked. So the beauty of the zodiac is it all comes back to Pisces. And they're very selfless. And if they have the right combination of planets, they can be just astounding people, because you can be with them and you can just feel spirit flowing through them. You can just feel it. By the way, I had a call today from a guy who had a lot of Venus and Mars in Pisces. His name's Reverend Greg Keene. He will be back with us in June. For those of you not used to Greg, Greg and I have been friends for a long time. He'll be on around June 6th. I'll give you the date. He's on every 6 months. He's a medium from Lilydale, which is the spiritual center of America in New York State. And he called to say hey. And just talking with him is just an amazing experience, because he's really got that Pisces going, but he's very strong. He's both. And you look around you. It's not easy to find a Pisces who is strong. Okay, so I have done my dance. Ta-da! And it's 9:07, so we have plenty of time. If you want to continue, there's no real end time. If you'd like to ask a question or go over a point on a certain sign, let's do so. If not, we'll call it a night. Any questions, just raise your hand. If anybody's got... Did you all, I'll get to you, Erica. Did you all do the head up and down? Did you learn something? Good, that's what I want to see. Yeah, go ahead, Erica, let me get you unmuted. I'm glad you learned something. You'll learn much more if you get the book. Erica, go ahead.
It wasn't a question, but it was when you said that you were talking to your client and you told her, about her sign and that she has to unplug from that.
Right.
That's Astrology Unplugged, I was thinking.
That's very good. I never thought of that. That's very good. Yeah, that's true. What I do, you being a Taurus, I got to get you in the office and get you unplugged from that over-identifying with Taurus. Then we talk about all your details in your chart. Then we go back and we find out, is the Taurus really working? Because you got to have that sun sign satisfied. You got to have that sun sign satisfied. So it's better to break you in pieces than go back to the Taurus. But when we picked Unplugged, I don't know why we picked it. I think what I really tried to say with Unplugged was, I paid my dues. I don't have to follow any instructions, and we can just talk about any topic we want to. Where's your cat, Marcia? I'm sorry about Emily. I heard.
Thank you.
Lost one yesterday. I'm sorry to hear that. Marcia, pick up anything tonight?
Yes, the Virgo people with the intestinal problems, It's huge.
Yeah, it is.
Um, my husband.
Well, let me tell
Yeah.
you what I did one day, Marcia, bud. I was writing an article about what signs are fluid, what signs are not. And I came down to I know that Flip is a Virgo. I came down to realize that Capricorns and Virgos are the two signs that are not fluid. Why? Because Virgos have to look for what's wrong and stop the conveyor belt and fix it. And Capricorn, similar, what could go wrong? I got to stop it, make sure it does work. So what happens with both of our signs, and you two happen to be both of them, is we tend to take what's given to us and feel that we're getting seconds. We're not getting seconds. So the real trick to a Virgo or to a Capricorn is take what you are given and fix it if it needs fix it. You know what I do, Marcia? This is the first thing I do with Virgos. And you can ask Liza, I do a lot of work with Virgos. I teach them the difference between this. The dishes need done and the dishes need done. That's why I start them off. The dishes need done. We can't go out. And turn that into, hey, I'd kind of like to have the dishes done. My cat just jumped 3 feet. But that's where you start with, because you can't blame them. They're so tuned to what they did wrong. They're so tuned to it. But they got to realize that their human nature is going to do things wrong. And so they can't just be on their own back all the time about every little thing, how they did it. And that's the message that gets sent to the intestines.
Right.
And the intestines go, And since I believe that Chiron is the ruler of Virgo.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't believe how many people have intestinal problems when Chiron goes over something or something goes over Chiron. So where you have to go to work on this, and this is very detailed, you have to go to work on this thing about perfectionism, because it doesn't exist. To perfect is different than having something achieve perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to admire your husband for his caring and his purity to want to do that. But what Virgos can't do, they can't say, I've got to stop and do some things for myself. That's not Virgoan.
Mm-mm.
And you have to teach him, you've got to do things for yourself. You got to take care of yourself. That's a Virgo phrase. Virgo is all about preventive medicine. And they're real good teaching their clients that. But when they do something, in other words, Virgos come to me for permission. And I tell them, I can't give you permission. And if I give them permission, they go, wow, I'm allowed to go on vacation. Well, you've always been allowed. But they got to turn around and face that. They got to turn around and face that should. They got to face that right from wrong. They got to face that perfectionistic streak. And they got to realize that God gave them an ability to really care and do good work. But I've always said this, and this is really true. Tell this to your husband. There's nobody following a Virgo with a clipboard except themselves.
Right. Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah.
It's tough. It's tough because they really think that someone's going to start grading them on a little mistake they made on that one note. You made that one note wrong on your guitar,
Oh, yeah.
And that's why they're so darn good at it. But you do find with age, Virgos do mellow out more and more. And here comes an Aquarian. Thank you, Marcia. Good luck with Flip. Peter, how you been lately? Let me get you unmuted. There you go.
Man, I'm tired of being cooped up, but other than that, I'm pretty good. How about you?
Well, I'm doing okay, but I feel sorry for the Sagittarians who've been cooped up.
Yeah, they got it worse.
That's a sign I can't stand it. What's on your mind? Did you read the book?
I did read the book. Yeah, I liked the book.
Well, what I like about you appearing at that moment, Liza put it in the introduction. We have a very good friend, Michael, who took classes from us. And when Michael read the book, he's an Aquarian. And when he read the book, he realized all 12 of these signs are different. And once he understood that, he said in the book, in the introduction, therefore he could become more tolerant and understanding of everybody. And in case you guys aren't aware of this, take a look at your Aquarian friends. They know what friendship is, and they're very tolerant. And I'm not mincing words here. They're really good at it, and they just let people be who they are. My next lifetime, I want to be an Aquarian, and everybody I talk to wants to be a Sag. Everybody I talk to, don't be a Pisces. They don't want to be a Sag. I want to be Aquarian, and Liza's already cheated because she is one. She wants to be one again, and that's not fair. Any more questions, anybody? Come on, Peggy. I know you're Virgo, and thank you, Peter. Come on, Peggy. You got to have a question.
I don't really have a question, but it's really hitting home about the people that I know, what their signs are.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah?
I know that we have more in the chart, but I know Aries that is, we were driving all over a city trying to find a building, and I had an old GPS route, and she says, why don't I just go straight? I said, no, you got to go over here and turn, and you got to go over there and turn. And she says, okay, I may not like the way you are, but I like you. It's kind of a backhanded compliment, kind of.
Yeah. Well, they're very blunt, very blunt.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
here's the problem. Guess what the problem is everybody makes with Aries? If you're involved with an Aries, guess what the most common problem is?
They're
You got to put it on the table and fight.
yeah.
Everybody's dancing around the subject and being delicate. They just want to have it out.
Yeah.
And just get it over with. It's gone. So to me, it's astounding that we don't have more K through 12 with basic astrology. Because you just know. I worked for a temporary in-between jobs. I worked for an electrical company for a little while. And I had their birthday. People would call up with their problems. And I would treat them exactly like the sun sign told me. And man, it helped me so much. I get a Cancer on the line. Oh, I'm sorry you're going through so much trouble. Or I get a Virgo and I'd be, just matter of fact, well, this will be turned on, that'll be turned off. Yes, sir, okay. It helps so much to understand the basic personality. It does. Diane, what have you been thinking since you had your reading? You had a good reading.
I did have a good reading. And I'm happy to say I've been meditating more. That was one of the big things I got out of that.
And you're an Aries, right?
I am an Aries, yes. Yeah. But you said in the reading, I'm not a purely typical Aries, but I can relate to a lot of the Aries stuff. I do. I like to just talk it out. I don't want to beat around the bush.
Yeah. Beat around the bush. That's right.
Yeah, it's like, let's just talk about it. The other thing I was thinking as I was listening to you is I think that, one of the things that came out in my reading is that earlier in my life, I was suppressed. And now that's lifting, and that a lot more of my Aries is coming out.
That's really good. You're getting the blockages out of the way.
Yeah,
And the Aries is primary. It wants to burn fire.
Yeah.
And a lot of what those blockages are other people's blockages that they laid on you.
Yeah. So I find I'm just comfortable being me. I'm not self-monitoring so much. So that's what I used to do all the time, was like really like monitor what I wanted to say and do, and I was not really connected to, kind of that more free spirit in a way, I
The
think.
impulse, right. And that's exactly what you mothers of Aries and fathers of Aries need to learn. Don't caution your kid. Don't caution your Aries. If he's on the edge of a cliff, yeah. But don't caution. Let them bump their head. They'll get back up and they'll go, ow. And they learn because the next time their instincts are stronger. That's how they learn. They're the opposite of Cancer Capricorn. They're just the opposite. And, I've often said, Diane, that even said it in the book, the Aries are like a car with the hood ornament out front. They're the hood ornament on the front of the car. And they don't have a rear view mirror and they don't have a brake pedal. They're just go.
Yeah, I've always wondered, not wondered, but I've always known that I love to explore new things. I love to go on adventures, and just see what's around the bend or at the top of the hill or whatever.
Yeah, but the thing that's interesting about that is the thing that you really find, unlike Gemini, who finds the thing, what you find is a new part of yourself.
Mm.
That's what Aries is about, is finding this new part. Look what I did. Look what I just did. And it's not like Leo. It's not braggadocio. It's just,
Yeah.
sometimes we do things that are cool and it's really cool.
Yeah.
So you can see, and I'll wrap things up now. You can see that the 12 signs are just so different. It's just unbelievable. And I was even thinking about writing another book about why the signs so different. They are. They just are. When you think about any one of them compared to another one, and they're completely different. Anyhow, yes, Erica, you're going.
Can I ask for some advice
Well,
with a
you
Pisces?
can try it.
Okay. Well, you said Pisces says they don't want to go there. They don't want to listen to it. They don't want to deal with it.
Right.
Not all Pisces are nice people. You said yourself that many criminals are Pisces.
Right.
What do you do about a person like that if you have them in your life?
Well, what usually happens when you have a nasty Pisces is almost always they've just been abused so bad from the beginning. Because Pisces are doormats. They invite trouble. They take a life which is supposed to be selfless, and they can turn it into martyrdom, and they can turn that into sadistic stuff where they, the S&M people I've seen are Piscean. Doesn't mean they're sun sign, but with people with S&M qualities, it's a Piscean trait.
I know, but if somebody is a murderer, say, for instance, even though they may have been, abused or had a difficult upbringing, you can't just forgive everything.
Murderers
And they have to deal with it.
Murderers are a mutable quality. That's what I have found clearly. And I've done a lot of murderous investigation. They're a mutable quality. You might think Capricorn or Scorpio's the murderers. No. The murderers are the mutables because they lose control. Gemini loses control. Sag loses control. Even Virgo can lose control. And Pisces lose control. So it's a mutable thing. But what do you do with them depends on when you get them. When do you inherit them? Usually what's happening with a Pisces who's gone awry is they have learned, how do I say it? They're so weak-willed that they have programmed themselves with what everybody's told them. They believe the junk that everybody's told them. You beat up your kid and slap him around and tell him he's no good, and you do it to an Aries, he'll find his way out the door and he'll be all right. Virgo, he'll be all right. Pisces won't be all right.
Well, this person has killed animals in cold blood.
Yeah, that's very, very bad.
And they're a total fake person, and they're just, a parasite
Well,
a member of my
Okay.
family, which thank God, you know, they've gotten rid of them, but still they have to deal with.
well, in my opinion, I need to see the whole chart because you probably got 3 or 4 things happening at once. And somebody needed to get to that child when they were like 5 or earlier. But, you know, when you get into karmic stuff and you get into collective stuff, it gets very complicated. Anyhow, thank you for a good question. Thank you all for a real good evening. Next week, I don't know exactly what we're going to do, but we're going to get into something good. You got a cat? I got a cat too. Where is it? There it is. Show him, Stuart. Oh, there it is. Okay, everybody, thanks for joining. It'll be up on the web here soon. See you next week. Be careful and stay away from the germ stuff.
Yes.